I'm Savannah, and my life was supposed to be a fairy tale. Married to my childhood sweetheart, Ethan, dreaming of a cozy home with a yard full of laughter. But beneath the surface of our small-town love story, a storm was brewing, one I never saw coming. I made a choice in a moment of desperation, a decision that shattered the trust we'd built over years of stolen kisses and whispered promises. Now, as I stand in the ruins of what we once were, I can still feel the weight of that cold, hard check in my hand, a symbol of a dream bought at a price too steep to name. What did I do to save our future? And can Ethan ever look at me the same way again? Stick around to find out the dark secret that's tearing us apart. Picture this: a world where the air hums with secrets, where every shadow seems to whisper a story just out of reach. That's the world I've been living in, though I didn't always notice the murmurs. My name is Savannah, and at 24, I've already woven a life that feels both achingly familiar and strangely fragile. I'm not here to spill every detail just yet, but I want you to see the pieces of my puzzle as they sit right now, scattered across the table of my existence, waiting to be fit together. I grew up in a small town where the horizon never seemed to stretch far enough, a place where dreams were often tucked away in dusty attics alongside old family albums. But I had Ethan. My Ethan. We met when we were just kids, fumbling through high school with braces and bad haircuts, sharing stolen glances across the cafeteria. He was the boy who could make my heart race with a single lopsided grin, the one who'd sneak me out past curfew just to lie under the stars and talk about a future we couldn't quite see, but desperately wanted to build. 2 years ago, we made it official. Tied the knot in a little ceremony by the lake, with wildflowers in my hair and his hand trembling as he slipped the ring on my finger. Now, at 26, Ethan's still my anchor, my safe harbor. He works long hours at the local mill, coming home with sawdust on his jeans and a tired smile that still manages to light up my world. We've carved out a modest life in a rented bungalow on the edge of town, the kind of place where the paint peels at the edges, but the warmth inside makes up for it. Then there's Maris, my best friend since we were knee-high, the kind of soul who knows your every scar and still sticks around. She's 25, with a laugh that could shatter glass and a penchant for dragging me into adventures I'd never dare on my own. Maris works at the diner downtown, slinging coffee and pie with a wink, always dreaming of something bigger, something beyond the county line. She's the one who keeps me grounded when my thoughts spiral, the one who shows up with a bottle of cheap wine and a playlist of old songs when I need to forget the weight of the day. We've shared everything: heartbreaks, late-night confessions, and those quiet moments where words aren't needed. She's my family, just as much as Ethan is. My days are a rhythm of routine, a quiet dance I've learned by heart. I work part-time at the library, shelving books and helping kids with their homework, surrounded by the musty scent of paper and ink. It's not glamorous, but there's a peace in it, a stillness I cling to. When I'm not there, I'm home, tending to the tiny garden out back where I've managed to coax a few stubborn tomatoes to grow, or cooking dinner with Ethan's favorite playlist humming in the background. I can still feel the weight of that moment, just a week ago, when Ethan and I sat side by side in the bank's waiting area, our loan application papers clutched so tightly in my hands that the edges started to crumple. The place felt like a sterile cage, cold and unwelcoming, with the hum of the air conditioning buzzing in my ears like a persistent mosquito. Somewhere in the distance, keyboards clacked away, a reminder of all the decisions being made behind closed doors, decisions that could make or break us. I glanced over at Ethan, watching him fidget with his tie for the 100th time, pulling at the knot as if it were choking him. His hazel eyes, usually so warm and steady, were clouded with a worry I hadn't seen in a long while. It twisted something deep in my chest to see him like that, so I reached over and squeezed his hand, my fingers threading through his. I wanted to tell him it was going to be okay, that this was our chance, our shot at that 3-bedroom house we'd driven past so many times, the one with the little yard where we pictured our future kids running around, laughing under the sun. I could almost see it, us sitting on the porch, sipping coffee while the world felt right for once. I needed him to believe in that vision as much as I did. But the waiting dragged on, each tick of the clock on the wall amplifying the tension knotting up my shoulders. Finally, a door opened, and a middle-aged woman with a tight bun and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes called us into a small office. Her nameplate read, Miss Carter, and her voice was clipped as she gestured for us to sit. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and printer ink, and as we settled into the stiff chairs, I felt a sinking dread. She didn't waste time. With a few curt words, she delivered the blow. Our application was denied. Ethan's credit history, spotty from a rough patch a few years back when he'd struggled to keep up with bills after a layoff, was the reason. I watched his face fall, the color draining from his cheeks as his shoulders slumped forward like he'd been punched. He muttered under his breath, barely audible, something about how we'd never get out of that cramped apartment, how we'd be stuck forever in a place that felt more like a box than a home. His words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they echoed a fear I'd been shoving down for months. Inside me, though, something else was brewing. Frustration, hot and sharp, clawed its way up my throat. I wasn't ready to roll over and accept this as the end. No way. We'd scraped and saved for this, spent nights hunched over budget spreadsheets, dreaming of a life that felt like more than just getting by. I leaned forward, my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding, and told Miss Carter we needed to speak to someone higher up. Ethan shot me a look that was half surprise, half uncertainty, but I held my ground. Miss Carter hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line before she finally nodded and said she'd arrange a meeting with her superior. That's how we ended up here, a few days later, standing outside the heavy wooden door of Mr. Grayson's office on the top floor of the bank. My stomach churned as I smoothed down my blouse, trying to steady my breathing. Ethan stood beside me, his jaw tight, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. I could feel the weight of everything riding on this moment, the dream of that house slipping further away with every second we waited. Then the door swung open, and we stepped inside. The office was like something out of a movie, intimidating in its sheer size and opulence. A massive mahogany desk dominated the center of the room, polished to a mirror shine, with 2 leather chairs facing it, their dark upholstery gleaming under the soft light of a chandelier. Behind the desk, a floor-to-ceiling window framed the city skyline, all sharp edges and distant lights, a stark reminder of how small we were in the grand scheme of things. Mr. Grayson sat there, a man in his late 50s, his graying hair slicked back, his sharp suit tailored to perfection. His presence filled the room, an aura of authority that made my palms sweat. Beside him stood Liam Carter, a lean man in his early 30s, polished and poised, with a sly smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. He held a stack of files in his hands, his eyes flicking over us with an unsettling kind of amusement. I felt like prey under their combined gaze, but I squared my shoulders and forced myself to speak. I poured my heart out, my voice trembling at first, but growing steadier as I went on. I told them about our dreams, about the countless nights Ethan and I had stayed up late, planning and hoping for a future where we could finally plant roots. I explained how hard we'd worked, how every penny saved felt like a tiny victory, how this loan was our one shot at making it all real. Ethan sat beside me, silent, his eyes fixed on the floor, barely meeting anyone's gaze. It hurt to see him like that, so withdrawn, but I kept going, desperate for them to understand. Mr. Grayson listened, his face a mask of cold indifference, his fingers steepled in front of him. Then, abruptly, he cut me off. His voice was smooth, almost too calm, as he said our case was difficult. Financial risks, he called it, his tone implying that we were a gamble not worth taking. My heart sank, the room seeming to close in around me. But before I could argue, he leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "There's one way to solve it," he said, his voice dropping to a low murmur. And then, God help me, he gave me a slow, deliberate wink. Liam, standing just behind him, let out a soft chuckle, exchanging a knowing glance with his boss. My mind scrambled to make sense of it, confusion clouding my thoughts, What did he mean? What was that look? But as the seconds ticked by, a sickening realization settled in my gut. My breath caught as I understood what they were implying, what they were offering. Mr. Grayson's next words confirmed it. He suggested Ethan step outside, saying we needed some privacy to discuss options. His tone was laced with something dark, something predatory, and I felt a wave of disgust roll through me. But beneath that, there was fear, and worse, desperation. I thought of our crumbling dreams, of the house we'd never have, of the life we'd never build if I walked away now. My mind screamed at me to stand up, to grab Ethan and run, but my body stayed rooted to the chair, torn between what I knew was right and what I feared I had to do. Against every instinct, against every shred of my better judgment, I nodded. My voice was barely a whisper as I turned to Ethan and told him I'd handle it, that he should wait outside. He looked at me. Confusion. I'm standing in Mr. Grayson's office, the weight of what I've just done pressing down on me like a physical force. My hands tremble as I clutch the loan approval papers, the ink still fresh, and the check. A cold, hard piece of paper that feels like it's burning a hole through my palm. It's tangible proof of the line I've crossed, a transaction that's left a stain on my soul. I can barely look at it, but I can't look away either. The room feels suffocating now, the opulence of that mahogany desk and the glittering chandelier mocking me with their pristine perfection. Mr. Grayson adjusts his tie with a slow, deliberate motion, a smirk playing on his lips as he leans back in his chair. "Pleasure doing business with you," he says, his voice dripping with a satisfaction that makes my stomach churn. Beside him, Liam hands me a tissue, his mocking grin cutting through me like a blade. I take it, though I don't know why. Maybe to wipe away the invisible grime I feel coating my skin. Or maybe just to have something to do with my shaking hands. I catch a glimpse of myself in the reflection of the window behind them, and I barely recognize the woman staring back. My blouse is wrinkled, hanging unevenly as if it's as disheveled as my thoughts. My hair, once neatly pinned, now falls in messy strands around my face, clinging to my damp forehead. My lipstick is smudged, a stark red smear that looks like a wound against my pale skin. Physically, I'm a mess. But inside, it's worse. There's a storm raging in my chest, a toxic mix of guilt that claws at my heart, nausea that threatens to spill over, and a strange, hollow numbness that's somehow the most terrifying of all. It's like I've stepped outside myself, watching this moment unfold as if it's happening to someone else. But it's not. It's me. I did this. I made a choice. And now I have to live with it. Or at least try to. My legs feel like lead as I force myself to move toward the door. Each step is heavier than the last, the polished floor beneath me seeming to stretch endlessly, as if it's conspiring to keep me trapped in this moment of shame. I can still feel their eyes on me, Mr. Grayson's smug gaze and Liam's taunting smirk, even though I don't dare look back. The weight of what happened here, what I allowed to happen, hangs over me like a dark cloud. I can't shake the memory of their voices, the way they spoke in hushed tones, the unspoken agreement that passed between us. It wasn't just about papers and signatures. It was something far uglier, something I can't even bring myself to name out loud. But I know what it was. I felt it in the way the air shifted, in the way my skin crawled under their scrutiny. And now, with every step, I'm carrying that secret out into the world, where Ethan waits for me, completely unaware. I reach the door, my hand hesitating on the cold brass handle. Beyond it lies the hallway, and beyond that, Ethan. My Ethan. The man who's been my rock, my everything, since we were just kids dreaming of a life bigger than our small town. He's out there, sitting on a bench, probably staring at the floor like he always does when he's anxious, his hands clasped tightly together. He doesn't know. He can't know. But the thought of facing him, of looking into those hazel eyes that have always seen right through me, makes my chest tighten until I can barely breathe. I push the door open, the hinges creaking softly, and step into the hallway. The fluorescent lights overhead are harsh, glaring down on me like a spotlight, exposing every flaw, every crack in the facade I'm trying so desperately to hold together. My eyes squint against the brightness, but I can still make out Ethan's figure at the far end of the corridor. He's exactly as I pictured, hunched over, his elbows on his knees, his gaze fixed on the tiled floor. He looks so vulnerable, so trusting. As I walk down the hallway, each step feels like I'm dragging chains behind me, the weight of my decision pulling me down. My voice is barely a whisper, shaky and raw, as I call out to him. Ethan? It's more a plea than a name, a desperate hope that he won't see through me, that he won't notice the cracks in my armor. He looks up, and in that split second I see the shift in his expression. His hazel eyes, usually so warm and full of trust, narrow as they take me in. I know what he sees. My blouse still askew, the faint red marks on my neck that I couldn't hide, the way my hands fidget nervously at my sides. I can't meet his gaze, my eyes darting to the floor, to the wall, anywhere but at him. It's like I'm a stranger in my own skin, and he's seeing it too. He stands slowly, deliberately, his broad frame unfolding as if he's bracing for a storm. His hands clench into fists at his sides, the knuckles whitening under the strain. His voice, when he speaks, is low and trembling, like he's holding back a tidal wave of emotion. What did you do, Savannah? The question cuts through me sharper than any blade, each word heavy with suspicion and dread. I open my mouth to answer, to spin some excuse, some flimsy lie that might shield him from the truth. But the words stick in my throat, choking me. I stammer, my voice breaking over half-formed syllables, but it's no use. The truth is written all over me, in the way I stand, in the way I can't look at him, in the invisible weight that seems to bow my shoulders, and I see it hit him, the realization crashing over him like a brutal wave. His face crumples, a raw mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief twisting his features. His jaw tightens. His eyes glisten with unshed tears, and for a moment, I think he might turn away, might walk out of this bank and out of my life forever. The silence that follows is suffocating, a heavy blanket that smothers us both. We're standing in the middle of the bank lobby now, people passing by in a blur of suits and briefcases, their mundane chatter a stark contrast to the personal hell unfolding between us. They don't see us, don't notice the way the air crackles with unspoken pain. They don't hear the way my heart is pounding so loud, I'm sure it's echoing off the marble walls. I feel exposed, raw, like every eye in the room should be on me, judging me for what I've done. But no one looks, no one cares. It's just me and Ethan, trapped in this bubble of anguish, the world moving on without us. My hand shakes as I reach into my purse, pulling out the check. That piece of paper, with the loan amount scrawled across it in cold black ink, feels like a brand against my skin. It's the proof of our dream, the key to that house we've longed for, but it's also the symbol of everything I've sacrificed to get it. I hold it out to him, my arm trembling so badly, I'm afraid I'll drop it. His eyes drop to the check, and I watch as his breath catches, a sharp, audible gasp that seems to tear through the silence. His hands, still clenched moments ago, now shake as he reaches out to take it from me. His fingers brush mine, and I flinch at the contact, the warmth of his touch a painful reminder of what we used to be. He stares at the numbers on the paper, his eyes wide, unblinking, as if he can't quite believe they're real. Then, slowly, tears well up, spilling over and tracing silent paths down his cheeks. He looks back at me, and in that moment, I see everything. Gratitude for the money that will change our lives, but also devastation. A bone-deep sorrow for the cost it came at. His gaze searches mine, looking for answers I can't give, for a way to undo what's been done. We don't say a word as we leave the bank, the weight of that check burning a hole in my purse like a cursed artifact I can't escape. The drive home is a suffocating void, the hum of the engine the only sound between us. I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white, my eyes fixed on the road ahead, but my mind is trapped back in that office, replaying every moment, every choice. Ethan sits beside me, staring out the window, his face a mask of stone. I can feel the distance growing, a chasm opening up where there used to be warmth. I want to reach out, to bridge that gap with words, with touch, but my hands stay glued to the wheel, and my tongue feels like lead in my mouth. The silence is louder than any argument we've ever had, a silent scream of everything we're not saying. The days that follow blur into a haze of mechanical routine. We sign the papers for the house, the pen scratching against the page like a knife carving into my conscience. We pack boxes in our tiny bungalow, folding clothes and wrapping dishes, but every movement feels hollow, like we're just going through the motions of a life we no longer recognize. The air between us is thick, heavy with unspoken pain, a fog that neither of us knows how to clear. I catch myself watching Ethan when he's not looking, searching for a sign, any sign, that we can come back from this. But his eyes are distant, his shoulders hunched, as if carrying a burden he can't share. I wonder if he's replaying that moment in the bank lobby, if he's piecing together the unspoken truth I can't bring myself to voice. I wonder if he hates me for it, or if he hates himself for not stopping me. One evening, as we unpack in the new kitchen, I see him freeze mid-motion, a cardboard box half opened in front of him. He's holding an old photo, one from our wedding day by the lake. We're laughing in it, my head thrown back, wildflowers tangled in my hair, his arm around me, his grin wide and unguarded. It's a snapshot of a time when the world felt simple, when trust was as natural as breathing. I watch him stare at it, his hazel eyes empty, devoid of the warmth I used to see there. His fingers trace the edge of the frame, lingering as if he's trying to touch that moment, to pull it back into existence. Then, without a word, he sets it aside on the counter, turning back to the box like nothing happened. But I saw it, the flicker of loss, the shadow of what we've broken. My chest tightens, a lump forming in my throat, but I don't say anything. I can't. What words could possibly mend this? I'm haunted by what I did, by that hour in Mr. Grayson's office that plays on an endless loop in my mind. I see his smirk, hear the low murmur of his voice, feel the weight of a decision I made in desperation. I question everything now, every glance I gave, every word I spoke, every moment I let slide past without fighting harder. Did I make the biggest mistake of my life? Could I have walked away, found another way, even if it meant losing the house, losing the dream? I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling of our new bedroom, the darkness pressing in around me. I try to imagine a different ending, one where I stood up, took Ethan's hand, and walked out of that bank with nothing but our dignity intact. But the reality is colder, sharper, a blade that cuts deeper with every passing day. I traded something sacred for something material, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for it. Ethan hasn't touched me since that day at the bank. Not a hand on my shoulder, not a brush of fingers as we pass in the hallway. Nothing. We sleep on opposite sides of the bed now, a vast empty space between us that feels like an ocean I can't cross. I miss the warmth of him, the way he used to pull me close in the middle of the night, his breath steady against my neck. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.